Hello and welcome to our webinar today. I'm John Lisbon, Pointed founder, and with us today will be Terry Miller, managing partner of CRM Group. We're going to be talking about integrating search and email marketing. This is the fourth in our series of webinars, and we're very glad that you can join us. Hope you're getting a benefit out of all of them. A little bit about Pointed. We were launched in April of 2002. We're Seattle's largest independent search marketing firm, with 12 team members servicing a variety of clients among various verticals and revenue models. The agenda today is I will be starting out and talking about some search marketing statistics as they relate to email and search marketing, go over the buying cycle, and explain how you can increase search lead conversions through some landing page techniques. And then Mr. Terry Miller will be discussing eNurture situation analysis, give you some sample eNurture campaigns that you can review, or he'll review them with you, and a couple of case studies. And then we'll follow that up with a couple of questions from the audience, you. A little bit about, this is a recent marketing Sherpa survey of about 1,250 marketers done in January of 2009. And as you can see, the marketers generally look at pay-per-click search ads, email, and search engine optimization in a very favorable light as top ROI performers. One note, emails to third-party lists, rented lists, are just a hair higher than pop-ups and pop-unders, the scourge of the internet. So the big difference between emails to house lists, which is a list that you may acquire from people who are signing up, for instance, to your white papers or prospects of yours, versus renting a list. This other chart also illustrates the fact that marketers look at house email, SEO, and paid search not only as a top ROI or return on investment marketing tactic, but also it's very high in usage. And this particular survey is for B2C marketers. And this is a display of the Bycicle. As you may know, awareness, interest, consideration, purchase, retention, and advocacy. The reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of the search marketing that we do, yes, sure, some people and prospects become clients right away and they purchase right away, but a lot of them, or maybe the bulk of the people who are interested in your service, are really just in the consideration or interest stage of the buy cycle. And that's what this is all about. It's discussing how those people can be moved along the buy cycle towards purchase. And I want to give you an example of, this is our Pointed's corporate website, and this, as you can see, there's a lot of information here. It's a good site if you're looking to understand about Pointed. Maybe if we're driving branded terms, somebody's looking specifically for Pointed in a search query, then we should drive them to this site. However, it's not really designed as a conversion page, which is why you sometimes develop landing pages, and specifically for your search marketing. And this is an example of one we've been using lately that has had much higher conversion rates from paid search to this landing page. And we have a clear offer. It's a top 10 B2B paid search mistakes. And within this landing page, there's also a form field that you can fill out. And it's really just one page. A landing page or a microsite can be a couple of pages, but generally you don't want people getting lost within your website and going through various links and then bailing. So you want to really have them in there, make a great mousetrap, do exactly what you want them to do, submit the form, and then you have them as a lead. Here's another example of kind of repurposing a good landing page. This is the And in this case, we're using it for another purpose, which is a pointed performance audit. But basically the same concept behind it, and it's a really high converting page. So once you have somebody into your sales funnel or your Bycicle, then what do you do with them? I mean, you have them in your database, and that, then typically you get into drip marketing tactics. Here's a diagram to illustrate that, whether it's postcards, brochures, email, various tactics that you may use to keep that person engaged, keep that prospect engaged, and move them through the Bycicle. And one of those tactics is email, like I just mentioned, and Terry Miller will be discussing today how you can use email to drive a person through the Bycicle. He's got 20 years of experience in sales, marketing, and operation. He's now the managing partner of the CRM Group, and I'm very happy to introduce Terry Miller.
Thank you, John. And let's get right into it here. John showed you a couple of charts. I want to take the opportunity to show you one more, which relates to lead generation and nurturing. This is a survey of 250 business-to-business organizations, fairly large size, and also conducted by Marketing Sherpa and Babcock and Jenkins. And as you can see, the house email ranked as a major contributor to both lead generation and lead nurturing, and it was ranked highest by more respondents than any other category. On the lead generation side, telequalification came in second, followed by SEO. On the lead nurturing side, SEO came in second. And obviously, from the results of this, it's not just John and I that are the only ones that think that search and email really complement each other when it comes to maximizing the ROI you can generate from your marketing programs. We'll move into situation analysis now on the eNurture program. And if your company is like most, marketing is generating leads from a number of sources, whether it be search, trade shows, other forms of online and offline marketing such as direct mail, broadcast, and what have you. And generally those leads are coming in with varying degrees of qualification. Some are scored and you know the highly qualified leads, but many are not, and sometimes you have little or no information other than the actual source. So this means that it's really difficult for sales to follow up with all the leads as quickly as they would like to be. And companies often struggle with finding effective ways to further qualify their leads to help their sales organizations prioritize their follow-up activities. John? Thank you. So with respect to that, what you're trying to understand is, who are you going to have essentially the president call this afternoon, and who are you going to let the janitor call when they get around to it? One solution to this problem is to use email to nurture these leads and get prospects to self-qualify themselves as they respond to the calls to action and the offers that they find in the emails themselves. So now let's talk a little bit about the benefits of these eNurture campaigns. One, leads are more qualified because these folks have shown further interest in your product or service, and they've done that by responding to your call to action, be it a white paper, webinar, registration, what have you. Secondly, revenues are increased because your sales team is spending their time working more qualified leads, so they're putting their effort where you want it the most. 3, the sales cycle is reduced for the same reason. 4, because you're generating more revenue, the ROI of your lead generation efforts is increased. 5, we've already talked about how the efficiency of your sales team is improved. And 6, prospects are learning more about your products and services. So even if they're not clicking on the calls to action in the emails, they're still receiving and hopefully remembering your messaging on a consistent basis. In terms of goals for these eNurture campaigns, at the cornerstone of any effective campaign are the elements of frequency and consistency around the communication of your value propositions. Another goal is to speed up the qualification of leads and to do so in greater quantities. And like any other direct marketing program, you should always be looking for ways to optimize your effectiveness through testing and trial. So in terms of the actual steps in developing an effective eNurture campaign, we generally break that out into 3: evaluation, analysis, and implementation. So let's drill down on each one of those a little bit further here. In terms of evaluation, what we want to look at is examining your current communication stream. This may be something that could be a welcome email or as much as a multi-channel, full, robust customer contact strategy. And even in the other case, for some people, it's nothing. Once we get a lead, we don't even respond at some point. So we want to look at the communication stream. We want to gain a clear understanding of the objectives of the program itself, the form and the frequency of the communications, and then determine how aligned is the stream with the objectives that we've set for the program. Next comes analysis. And here we're looking at the business, and in particular, the business's sales cycle. Questions that we would ask are, how long is your typical sales cycle? What does your typical close rate look like? What's the average value of your sale? And we want to take these items into consideration when we develop the eNurture program. So essentially, the longer the sales cycle, the more opportunity you're going to have for contacts in the program. And it's a similar situation with higher versus lower ticket sales. If a ticket sale is fairly lower, generally speaking, the number of contacts you're going to have through the communication stream is going to be lower as well. So after evaluation and analysis, we come to implementing the new eNurture campaign. And as we roll out the new customer contact strategy, important considerations are the timing and number of contacts, the messaging, meaning what value propositions do we want to reinforce and in what order, and then what are the call-outs to action going to be? And really this hinges on what we're trying to accomplish back in the objectives. Are we trying to drive quantity when it comes to leads, or are we trying to drive quality? And we're going to need to adjust our barriers to entry accordingly. So if you're looking to really fill your funnel and quantity is what you're after, then probably your call to action needs to be something that requires little or no investment on the part of the prospect. Maybe something like a guide like John showed in the landing page previously, or a white paper, for example, might make the most sense there. On the other hand, if you're looking for quality, maybe a webinar that requires an investment of 30 to 45 minutes might prove to be a better choice. Generally speaking, also on the calls to action, we're going to want to save the special offers for the later contacts, and we'll talk more about that in the slides to come. So now that we've looked at the campaign steps, let's look at an actual campaign that we built for ShareBuilder. I don't know if you're all familiar with ShareBuilder, but they are a very large online brokerage firm among the top 5 in the country, and they have well over 1 million accounts that they handle. And here the leads that we were contacting were originally generated through the offer of an investment guide that was online and on the ShareBuilder website. So the program that we put together was designed to get these leads that he requested the guide to open up an actual account. What you're seeing right now is the first contact in the series. And in this email, the key messaging was aimed at reinforcing the primary value propositions of the ShareBuilder solution. And those were affordability and ease of use. In terms of affordability being the primary value proposition, as you can see, we talk about getting started with $100 or less. There's no minimums, and there's very low fees. In terms of the secondary value proposition being easy, you see 24/7 access, free info, and only a few minutes to set up an account. There's clear call to action here in terms of open an account, and in terms of a best practice for you guys developing these emails, you can see the 2 buttons there, and while they look like images, they're actually HTML buttons, and that's really important because that means that even if images are turned off when people are viewing the emails, they'll still see the call to action and be able to take advantage of it. These emails are also very preview pane aware, so people can see that button at the top of the email even if they haven't opened up the email and they're just viewing it in the preview pane. They can click from there and take action without even having to open up the email itself. And as you'll see in the whole series of the emails we show here, they're all very much supportive of the ShareBuilder brand. The second contact, if people didn't take action on the first, here we've kind of flopped the key messages. And here we're aimed at highlighting what was the secondary message from the previous email, which is ease of use, noting that you can get started in just 3 easy steps. Once again, there's clear call to action, open an account, or get started. And now, in case the prospect has any questions, there's a customer service number that they can call to move forward and get help. The third contact in this series, at this point, if the prospect hasn't responded to either the affordable or the easy use value propositions, we decided to try a monetary offer. And here we've got a $25 account bonus. But it's important to note that we didn't lead the nurture campaign with this, and the reason for that is we didn't want to give up any unnecessary margin or dollars to generate an account if we didn't have to. So essentially we tried to get people to take action with the affordable message, then the ease of use message. If we couldn't get them there, now we're down to the point where we're going to try to bribe them essentially to get them to open up an account. And that's where we've got open up an account, get your $25 bonus. And then in addition to the offer, we worked hard to create a sense of urgency so that if you don't open up your account in the next 15 days, the offer goes away. That also leads nicely to the fourth and last email of the Nurture campaign, because that provides us the opportunity to send out a reminder note to folks. There's only 3 days left in order to get your $25 activation bonus. And of course, in this email, in addition to the reminder, we're reinforcing the quick hitting bullets of all the key reasons ShareBuilder is the right choice. Let's take a quick look at another Nurture campaign as well, maybe coming at it from a slightly different angle. This one's for a company by the name of MyNeighborhoodAgent.com. And you guys are all probably used to getting postcards from realtors announcing listings and sales and open houses in your area. So real estate agents actually come and use the M&A site to create, print, and mail those postcards, and they do it all online. So these leads that we're focusing on in this Nurture series were generated by realtors coming to the M&A site and registering for what was a free account. In the past, and then the idea of the Nurture campaign here is to take those folks that had registered for a free account and turn them into paying customers. So in the past, the original welcome email that M&A had designed simply was a confirmation email with username and password. Okay, we went ahead and redesigned that email and didn't just stop there, but here we also wanted to promote the value propositions of ease of use and standing out from the competition, and then we reinforced the idea of ease of use with this three-step approach. There was a call to action button which encourages action, which you can just barely make out at the bottom of this email. So that was the initial contact. If you didn't take action from there, 7 days later, you got the second email in the series. And here the key messaging was to reinforce the reasons that registering for an account was a great idea and to provide ideas on when it would make sense to use M&A services. Ideas, again, around promoting listings, sales, open houses, etc. We decided here to include a really low barrier to entry in terms of a call to action. And this is simply in the form of a click-through to find out the #1 reason to start using M&A. So as you can see, we list the top 5 reasons and then require people to click through to find that 5th reason. So while it's a low barrier to entry, it really did serve to further qualify prospects in terms of interest shown by those clicking on the link. And then they were prioritized to follow up so that the inside sales team had a sense for who was more interested versus who was less interested going forward. If you still didn't respond at that point and actually start using the service, then in another week we sent out the 3rd email. Here we've kind of taken the approach of continuing to stress credibility. As you can see in the banner, thousands of other real estate agents are doing it. And then offering help in case the prospect's having trouble getting started. As you can see in the start of the copy, is something wrong? You know, these folks came and they registered for a reason, but something's still holding them back from using the service. So the idea here was to offer help and get them past whatever the block was. What you can't see at the bottom of this image is there's a picture of a customer service agent and the toll-free number for folks to go ahead and call in, and we would walk them through the process if necessary. They still hadn't taken action at that point. At 28 days after the initial welcome email, this 4th contact was sent out, and now, as you can see, we're offering a discount, 15% off the first order. It's really important to note that the reason we set this at 28 days was during our analysis phase, we were able to determine that the average customer that was going to pay for the service would do so by 28 days. Or, I'm sorry, by 22 days. So there was really no reason to make an offer before that 22-day mark because we'd be just giving up margin and dollars unnecessarily. The other piece around this email is, again, we created a sense of urgency, have to take advantage of this offer within 14 days or it goes away, and that gave us a reason to have the inside sales organization contact people as the 5th contact in the stream in order to drive actual purchase. How well did this campaign do? Well, the next slide shows the actual results in the form of a mini case study here, and as you can see, just by implementing the email communication strategy, we were able to increase the percentage of registrants that became paying customers from 27% up to 34%, an increase of more than 25%. So it did very, very well. So now let's move on to another form of e-nurture campaigns, which are newsletters. And we talked about the 4-part email series before, but even the most effective e-nurture programs aren't going to convert everybody. Or in the case of companies that don't have the interest or resources to develop a multi-part nurture campaign, maybe then an email newsletter program might be a good fit. You've already paid for the lead, and these prospects have shown interest in your products and services in one way or another, and then generally you want to find a way to communicate or to continue to communicate with them in an unobtrusive way so that they remember you when they're ready to move forward. So in these instances, and these newsletter programs are a great way to continue to maintain mindshare with your prospects while still generating additional leads as the recipients further qualify themselves by clicking through on articles in your newsletter. In terms of the benefits of this type of campaign, the first one is that the newsletter allows you to position you and your company as respected thought leaders in your space. It also allows you to keep your solution in front of your prospects in a soft sell way. Third, as I mentioned before, you'll be able to develop additional leads as your recipients vote with their clicks on the content in the newsletter. Fourth, the leads are further qualifying themselves as well by doing so. Fifth, just as with the e-nurture program, as you generate more revenue, the ROI of your lead generation efforts is improved. And if nothing else, you continue to build awareness for your products and services in your prospect base. So just as we did with the e-nurture campaign, let's look at the goals of an effective e-newsletter program. Here, you'll note that a really good e-newsletter is one where the recipients look forward to opening each issue. And in order to make that happen, content's going to be key. Now, I'm sure you all have certain newsletters that you find most appealing. One that I particularly enjoy is the monthly small business e-newsletter sent out by Wells Fargo Bank. There's almost always an article in there that I find helpful to my business, and I actually do look forward to receiving it. And that's really the kind of goal that you want to drive for your own e-newsletter campaign. You will have succeeded when people are looking forward to receiving your content. Additionally, it's also really important to be careful to maintain the credibility of your newsletter by avoiding self-promotion and really using a soft sell approach to generating interest in your services. So instead of talking about the features of one of your products, use a case study to demonstrate how one of your clients improved the results using your product. Once people feel that your newsletter has become simply nothing more than a sales vehicle, you'll see that the open rates and click-through rates will drop off. Even worse, opt-out rates will increase, and people will just lose interest in it. Another tip is not to bite off more than you can handle. You're much better off delivering a quarterly newsletter with really compelling content than trying to communicate on a monthly basis and presenting mediocre content, or even worse, missing issues altogether. In terms of the steps of developing an effective e-newsletter, there's 4 that we generally look at: strategy, content, creative, and optimization. During the strategy phase, you really need to step back and think about what you want your newsletter to do. For example, are you trying to position your organization as a credible source and a thought leader? Are you trying to drive leads? Or are you really just trying to drive mind share? After you've developed your strategy, now you can move on to developing content. And here you want to think about the type of content that's going to deliver the objectives that you've just determined during your strategy phase. Things that you're going to be asking yourself are, how many articles should I include? What should they be about? What kind of personality do you want your newsletter to demonstrate? In terms of CRM Group, and I'll be the first to admit that we don't do a great job of sending out our newsletter on a consistent basis, but we wanted to demonstrate the fact that we were not only knowledgeable, but we were fun and approachable too. So in addition to informational articles about how to improve sales or how to improve your email, we also included fun things like recipes, Caesar salad recipe, cioppino recipe, or movie reviews. I guess much to kind of my chagrin, sometimes those were the most clicked on items in the newsletter, but at least we were able to, through those, start to develop part of our personality and relationships with our customer base. After strategy and content comes creative, and I think you want to really think about developing your creative in a way that you don't let the design get in the way of making it an effective communication vehicle. And at the same time, ensuring that you support your overall brand and reinforcing the personality that you developed during the content thought process. And then again, like with any other direct marketing program, optimization is going to be key. So you want to continue to test and reinforce your efforts. Here you want to try various content types. And again, you're going to be able to tell what your recipients find most interesting by what they click on. Also, you want to vary the number of articles. And I think what you'll find, generally speaking, is less and more. Less is more. 3 or 4 articles tops is really a good number for an effective newsletter. Then think about other things that you can do to drive increased traffic from the newsletter to your site. Site navigation, including site navigation in your newsletter, will probably work. Contact us links, forward to a friend, those all drive additional traffic for you. And then, even taking it another step further, you can test how your prospects react to the use of images, the amount of text, placement of links. All those things can be tested to make sure that your newsletter works as hard as possible. So now let's walk through some sample newsletter campaigns that we developed for some of our clients. The first one here is for chefshop.com. They're an online purveyor of gourmet organic foods. And interestingly enough, we'll put this one in the category of rules were made to be broken. We just got done talking about using the soft sell approach and not using your newsletter to overtly sell your products. And then as you can see, Chef Shop actually does use this to sell products. But it's really okay in this case because it's what their customers have come to expect. Chef Shop sends this out on a weekly basis, and it's really their primary marketing vehicle. So people do expect to see announcements of new products, sale items, and the like. So it works in their case. And in addition to the products advertised, they also generally include a feature story and recipes, which are both very, very popular items. You'll also note at the top of the email, we talked about adding elements to increase traffic to your site. And at the top of this newsletter, there's a nav bar that mimics the one on their website and drives a lot of traffic back to their site. The next example I've got here is Bellevue Towers. This newsletter is sent to folks that have purchased or expressed interest in purchasing a luxury condo in these new towers in downtown Bellevue, Washington. So we talked earlier about the importance of creative and brand support. And as you can see from this newsletter, the look and feel has a very refined and luxurious slant to it. We also talked about less being more when it comes to articles and copy. And this newsletter is a great example of both. There's only 3 articles here, and the copy in the newsletter serves to generate interest and drive clicks to the landing page where the full story is told, rather than including the entire story in the e-newsletter itself. So this is really important for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps the reader from having to scroll very far down to see all the content in the newsletter. When you have that kind of situation, invariably people don't click on the articles at the bottom of the newsletter. They never get there. And it also promotes click-through, which qualifies the recipients, as well as provides insight into the type of content that they find compelling. I've got a couple more examples of e-newsletters I'd like to show you. The next one is for a company by the name of Spot Runner. They're an online ad agency based in Los Angeles that we work with. And here what I'd like to call your attention to is the column on the left-hand side, which includes a number of important features. First, at the top, you'll notice a table of contents. And this is going to appear to folks in their preview pane, which is really important. And secondly, it's going to appear when images are blocked because it's HTML and not a graphic. So both of these factors are going to help compel the recipient to open up the email and drive open rates for you. You'll also notice that this newsletter is tailored to the real estate professional vertical. So the column on the left also includes a link to video ads tailored specifically to these types of folks. It serves as a really good lead qualification tool for the sales team. In addition, there's a survey also targeted to this audience. This encourages interaction. And another best practice to point out appears at the very top of the newsletter, where you find a link to a web-based version of the newsletter for those having difficulty viewing the email, as well as a link to instructions for recipients to add Spot Runner to their safe senders list, which hopefully will avoid spam filters and increase deliverability in the future. The last e-newsletter I'd like to point out here and show you as an example is the one we just recently created for Penner Ash Winery. The folks at Penner Ash have an extremely loyal following, and these folks thirst for information about the winery and new vintages. This issue features a note from Ron and Lynn, the owners of the winery, and does a really good job of helping convey not only their personality, but also the personality of the winery itself. In addition, it includes a harvest update, a recipe, and a notice about upcoming events at the winery, all items that their audience find extremely interesting and want to learn more about. Once again, in this example, you'll also note the use of the left side column to drive interest in their wine club, give folks an opportunity to purchase wines, but still in a very low-key way, and promote visits to the winery. So on the next slide, we'll see the case study for the Penner Ash e-newsletter, and you can see for yourself what the combination of a really qualified, interested audience and compelling content can deliver. In this case, the open rates they achieved are more than double the industry average for B2C newsletters, and even more importantly, click-through rates that are nearly 4 times the industry average. In fact, the click-through rate for this newsletter is more than most companies generate in terms of open rate itself. So, we can't expect all newsletters to perform this way, but this is something certainly as you move forward and develop this kind of program, you want to strive for. And really what it comes down to is if your audience is highly qualified and interested and you deliver content that they are really interested in, you can get to these kinds of results. I hope that you've found the information that we've presented in regards to the email nurture and newsletter programs helpful, and that each of you have learned something today that you can walk away with and actionably improve your own efforts. I'd like to take a quick sec here to tell you a little bit about my company, CRM Group. And we've been around for 8 years and are very active in the email space, having developed and deployed hundreds of emails over that time. Bottom line, what that means is we've learned a great deal about what works and maybe even more importantly, what doesn't work. And now we can leverage on behalf of our clients that experience and best practices to really drive positive outcomes.
Great, Terry. Thanks. That was excellent. We do actually have a couple of questions and have some time to go over that with you. Joe asked, you mentioned that you didn't think that email was a good way to acquire leads. Can you tell us why not?
Sure, Joe. I think if we allude back to kind of the charts that John was showing in the beginning, it showed that email wasn't necessarily the most cost-effective way to acquire a name. If we looked at the numbers associated with the third-party list rentals, and that's really the crux of it. Permission-based email lists are so expensive, 8 to 10 times more than direct mail lists, that cost combined with the relatively low click-through rates that you generate from some of these programs proves that email is really not the most cost-effective way to acquire a prospect. Certainly search, other traditional marketing methods are more cost-effective. That said, once you've acquired that prospect name and email address, there's probably no better way than to continue to nurture and drive them through the sales cycle into an ultimate purchase than email, either through nurture programs like we showed, newsletter programs, promotional emails, and the like.
Yeah, excellent answer. Thanks. Paul asked, I get a lot of emails from companies and I'm surprised at how often the content doesn't render properly. Sometimes it's pushed to one side or the spacing and fonts are messed up. How can I prevent this from happening to the emails we send out?
Well, there's certainly no magic bullet here other than hard work. Really testing is going to be the key. You should be able to tell from your list essentially what ISPs people are using, what email clients they're using, and certainly if you're in the B2B space, generally speaking, Outlook 2003 or Outlook 2007 are going to be their choice. So again, no magic bullet, just brute testing and hard work. Testing your email in all these different platforms before you send it out for real will allow you to see how it actually renders, and then you can go in and make the corrections you need to before you embarrass yourself by sending out an email that just doesn't look the way you intended it to.
Okay. Tina wanted to know, why do I have to create landing pages for my newsletter articles? Why can't I just include the entire article in the newsletter itself?
Bettina, this is a question that we get asked frequently, and I think it kind of relates back to what John had talked about in terms of creating a landing page from search to maximize results. It's the same kind of a situation in the e-newsletter space. Again, we talked earlier about not including too much of the content in the newsletter because it pushes down all the articles, so people won't actually get a chance to look at them all. But even more importantly than that, by having the landing page and forcing click-through through the newsletter, you're actually qualifying people and generating a lead for your sales team. So there's a couple of really good reasons in order to create landing pages and not include all the content in the newsletter itself.
Okay, Mark had commented, could it be that, what is it, chefspace.com is
Chef Shop?
Chef Shop, sorry, is directed to an existing customer, which is why they are overly selling, whereas newsletters would be different for prospects?
I think that's a good characterization of what Chef Shop is doing. They are sending their newsletter to people that have requested it, obviously. Some of those people are buyers. Some people have never purchased. But I think that, they are able to get away with more overt selling in that piece because of the nature of their audience. So you are correct.
Okay, we have time, I think, for one more question from Jerome. Can you provide any insight as to what type of newsletter content people find most interesting?
Well, Jerome, I think the answer to that question is going to be the famous "it depends." It really depends on the type of business you have and your audience. But I can give you a couple of pointers anyhow. Certainly, we've found case studies are highly clicked on articles and newsletters. Additionally, tips and tricks. So what that really means is people like information about something that's going to help them, either in their business or in their everyday life. Again, we talked a little bit about, in both our case and in the cases of a couple of other newsletters, recipes being something that people like, not only from the perspective of our email. Chef Shop obviously has recipes. Penner Ash had recipes that people like, but that's winery and it kind of goes with it. But we even had a newsletter that we did for a pest control company, and they included a recipe around the holidays, and that was highly clicked on as well. So, ultimately you're going to be able to find out what works best in your space by testing different things. But there's some examples of items that generally work well.
Actually, Terry, we have a couple more questions. And I think we have a little time to answer them. They're good questions. What do you think about lists from trade shows? Do you think that would be a good list for email marketing?
Well, first off, I guess, it's certainly worth marketing too. I mean, these are people that stopped by, made an effort to stop by your booth. I mean, if you're acquiring the list simply by giving away an iPod, probably the value of the list is maybe not as good as one you just generate from people that stop by and watch an informational session or some kind of a demonstration. But certainly there's value in trying to market and nurture those names. I mean, they did make an effort to come by your booth. I don't think the list is going to perform like a list that you're generating through search, for example, but still it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of those people don't really want to be on your list. One more question here. I think it's from Sean. With so many people reviewing their emails in BlackBerries and other PDAs, how do you recommend getting the same brand message across when you don't have the power of imagery and graphics? Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's made even better by the fact that there's really no standardization across the PDAs. So generally speaking, what we will do is, and we're doing this more now so than ever, is deliver the emails in what's called a multi-part MIME message. So a combination of plain text and HTML is sent out through the email platform, and then the device on the other end is smart enough to know which one essentially to look at. So people don't really see both messages, they just see one. If you have an iPhone, I mean, you do see the emails in HTML and they render quite nicely, but maybe on other PDAs you don't. By including the plain text version and then at the top of the plain text version a link to a version of the email that they can view in their web browser, you can really maximize the results that you're getting from folks that have PDAs.
Thanks, Derek. Really appreciate that. And thanks, everybody, for attending today's webinar. We'll be following up with a copy of the PowerPoint deck and a link to the on-demand version, so you can pass that around to all your friends and buddies. And in the meantime, please contact either myself or Terry with any specific questions you may have. And once again, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.